Hi, my name is Jiju and welcome to Naadan Combo. We all know finding someone to spend the rest of your lives with is hard enough as it is. For some, that love will most likely be found outside of their culture. So we in Naadan Combo decided to interview two couples who went through that process to better understand their choices and how it has impacted their lives so far. We hope you enjoy this episode. As always, please like, subscribe, and share. Any questions you have, please send it over to naadancombo@gmail.com. Thank you. Thank you so much for you guys to come on board. Welcome to Naadan Combo. All right.
Thank you.
Today we want to talk about your lives and especially relationships, and like for Malus in general, like any ethnicity, if you look at it, everyone wants you to, it's really comfortable to be married or have a relationship within someone within our community, right? Because you're used to the customs, everything that's happening. It's easy integration. Parents love it and everything else like that. But of course, in today's day and age, you can't control who you fall in love with, right? The question, what we want to know, and this is mostly for our viewers, our next generation of people coming up, the kids that are growing up. I'm hoping that we can delve into some of the things that you guys went through. Some of the struggles, some of the good things, the bad things, how you guys work things out together. Hopefully they'll get a better understanding it is to, deal with those kind of issues, if there are any, like serious issues, and also, help them, lead a better life in terms of bringing communities together, bringing cultures together. And we're hoping that, as in America, we want everybody to kind of like, work together, be part of a general society. There's when we and Mini understands that when our parents, I'm second generation, but when my parents came on board, the only people we ever spoke to were people within our community. That was it. We didn't talk to anybody else unless our neighbor was, otherwise, we didn't go to anywhere. But that's not the case. Our children go to different houses. So it's good for them to understand and, get to know things. So to begin with, I want you guys to do a little bit of introduction. All right. I'm going to start with you, Marcus. Give you your name, who you're married to, and how long you've been married.
Marcus Duley, married to this lovely lady over here, Mini Duley. We've been married for 19 years, going on 20 in November. So about
Congratulations, man.
6 months, it'll be 20 years.
20 years. What about you?
My name's Aida. I'm married to this little fella here, Brian. We've been married for about 2.5. September will be 3 years.
Yep. September 3 years.
Yeah.
All right. Let me, ethnicity-wise, what's your background?
African-American.
African-American.
I'm Egyptian.
You're Egyptian. Okay. Mm-hmm. So here's my first question to you, okay? Well, how does it feel being married to a Malu?
Feels great.
He's like careful about it, right? What was your experience?
The pause, and I said that because I don't think of myself as being married to a Malu. I think of myself as being married to Mini.
Correct. Right. Exactly.
So when I heard the question, it's like, I don't know. It's married to my wife.
So, but did you feel like when did you first come across a feeling that there's a difference in culture or anything of that sort?
The day I met her.
Tell me about, please.
So I'm African American. She's Indian. I'd never dated an Indian woman before, a woman of Indian descent, and so right away that there's a cultural difference, even if there's still some continuity between, us being in America. We met at university, and so, I knew there was going to be some differences, but quite frankly, that's what makes things interesting.
So you guys been married 20 years ago. How difficult was it as far as dating was concerned?
Dating was a little difficult. There was a little bit of secrecy involved in that, and again, 20 years ago, it was not very common to see an African American man dating an Indian woman. So sometimes we drew some stairs.
All right, so I'm going to
particularly from you were there. So particularly from at school, like, oh, that's Minnie. Oh, she's with that guy. Yeah.
So I'm going to explore this a little bit more, but this time I want Minnie to answer that question. Like, okay, so you talked about a little bit of a difficulty. How did you deal with that at that time?
It was completely secret. Couldn't tell. So it was even hard to communicate. So we would be in college, and that's when we would talk because I couldn't pick up the phone.
So how did you
call.
explain it to him? Like,
He kind of knew already. I think that Indian women aren't the ones that are dating, going outside of the race, pretty much. So he kind of knew that already. As soon as he met me.
And I'll just add. So I was in business school, and some of my classmates were from India, and I'd always liked other cultures and was curious about different things. And had a classmate, her name was Shilpa, and she told me she had a love marriage. I said, love marriage? Isn't every marriage a love marriage? It's like, no. We have a lot of arranged marriages, and that blew my mind. The concept still blows my mind, quite frankly. And so I know that, there's this concept of arranged marriages, and, there's different levels of arrangement, right? Whether that's just simply, you go to India and your parents pick someone, or it's more of your choice, but it's a limited choice among
So you knew some of that cultural components about...
Absolutely.
Right.
Now, I didn't know the differences. I learned a lot between North and South and all the languages, but to me, that discovery was fun.
That discovery,
yeah.
Laura, let me bring it to you now. You're recent, right? Okay, so was it as difficult?
So I would say for me personally, I was the type, like when we first started dating, I didn't want to lie to my parents. Like I was like, I want to be honest with them and I don't want to go behind their backs. So when I first told my parents, thankfully, because my brother, Peter, he went to seminary, Orthodox seminary, so he met other Orthodox people and he was telling my parents about all of that. And so I think my parents' mindsets kind of changed and they realized that there's other Orthodox people that aren't Egyptian and that there's Greeks and Indians and all these.
They didn't, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're just more traditional. And so in their head, there's only Coptic Orthodox, and so when I first started telling them, I was like, we went on our first date and it went really well. And so I was like, okay, let me just be honest with them. My brother was really encouraging about it. He was like, yeah, just tell them it'll be okay. And our brothers both went to that seminary together. So my parents had already met Bobby Utchin too. So I was like, hey, Mom and Dad, I'm dating someone. He's Orthodox, but he's not Coptic. And so it was pretty much a guessing game after that. My dad was like, okay, is he Syrian or so I don't know, what did he say? Greek, I think was one. I was like, no, he's Indian Orthodox. And they're like, oh, okay. And, my mom was really hesitant at first. My dad was trying to be a little bit more, okay, this is interesting. But yeah, so then they knew that Bobby Utchin was his brother and they were happy about that because they liked him. They met him. But yeah, I mean, they were hesitant. I think my mom and dad had conversations behind the scenes of are we okay with this? What do we do? And they definitely wanted to meet him. That was the first thing.
But the Orthodox piece was the unifying factor, you would say? Yeah,
I would say that's what did it. That's what helped the most. Because he was Orthodox, that's what was saving the day kind of thing. So, because for my parents, at the end of the day, religion's going to be the most important. I mean, culture, yes. There was, in their minds, I'm sure they expected me to marry someone Coptic Orthodox. But I think at the end of the day, they realized, okay, he's Orthodox. That's the priority. And then the culture kind of came second.
Right. So let me go to the mother people here. I want to start with Brian. Brian, how did you bring this topic up with your parents?
Oh, geez. Okay.
Different. So, you just bring a photo. It
was actually.
I met this gorgeous woman. Here we go.
No, I was a lot more stressed about it. I mean, I kind of kept it a secret for the most part. So we started dating our senior year of college, early on, at the beginning of the fall semester. And like she said, things were going really well. I met her parents. But I still kept it a secret from my parents just because I feel for Malus, the emphasis is always education, make sure nothing distracts you from that. Once you get a job and you're secure, then you start like dating and stuff. And like, I just felt like, at least in my family, between my brother and my cousins, like, if we ever were to date, like, we kind of keep it a secret, and then we only tell our parents when we're ready for like engagement, right? I think that
like
was
at the cusp, you say?
yeah, like
we're not turning back at this point.
Yeah. I just felt like that was how it is done, like in our family or in our culture.
Sure,
like,
sure.
We weren't really talking to my parents about dating and boyfriend or girlfriend. Like that was not a topic in the house.
So how did they take it though? Like when you brought it up?
Yeah, so I was gonna keep it a secret for a long time, but what had happened was I was graduating. Like, thank God I was graduating, but obviously she was gonna be there and my parents were gonna be there. So I'm like, ooh, I think my secret, like, I think I've exposed my secret soon. So graduated in May, but in April, a month before, I decided to come home from college. I was gonna have a serious sit down with my parents, and I come home. I'm like super stressed and nervous. And my brother knows that I'm going to talk to my parents about it. So I'm like, the whole bus ride going to New York, I'm like, all right, I'm like prepping what to say, like how I'm going to bring it up, things like that. And I come on a Friday night. I was going to do it like Saturday morning, Saturday, whatever.
You got the time and stuff.
I had it, I'm telling you.
You were stressed.
I had it in my calendar event, like, all right, reveal date, you know? So I get there Friday night, and then my uncle and my aunt are there too. And my uncle's older than he's my dad's older brother. And he looks at me while we're eating. He's like, you have something you want to tell us. I'm like, oh no, I had it for tomorrow, right? Like, it's not supposed to be tonight. So we all gather in the living room, and, I just have a serious discussion. I'm like, Papa, Mommy, like, I don't want to lie to you. Like, I have a job. I'm going to be moving out of the house. Like, I don't want to lie to you. I want to be an adult. I want to make sure that we can be on the same page. So I slowly bring it up, like, I'm seeing someone. It is a serious relationship. She's Orthodox. She's studying to become a nurse, and like all these things. Like, I try to say all the right things, right? And then I say like, oh, but I didn't say it like that. I didn't say it like that. But I mentioned that she's not Malu. She's of a different culture. She's Egyptian. And I also said, you guys know of her because they knew of Peter, her brother, because my brother and Peter were in seminary together. So they knew of Peter. So I'm like, oh, like it's his younger sister. Her name is Aida. And I'm like, I have pictures if you want to see and whatever. And my mom's like, yeah, I want to see a picture, right? My dad didn't have the best reaction. He looked at my mom when she said that. Was like, you're okay with this? Yeah, really. And then, I mean, my dad didn't react well at all. I mean, it like after that conversation, he kind of like blew off and stormed off and just wasn't happy about it. And the next day, we never brought it up.
Really?
Yeah, like it was just like.
How long did it take for him to come around?
It took a while. Like even the graduation, I would say, was awkward.
Oh my gosh, that was so intimidating.
Yeah, like because it was like my parents, my older uncle and aunts and cousins and stuff.
And your dad does this serious face just staying.
Yeah, there. He's trying to be happy for me, like taking graduation pictures and stuff, but like in the back of his mind, like he was stressed and stuff. And I mean, it took a while. Like it wasn't an easy process. Like it took a few months, maybe like closer to like a year. Like we were still dating for a while, and it wasn't until like maybe a year and a half later where he like finally like we had a talk. He's like, I'm okay with that. I just want you to be happy. So it is a
process. Even today is what you're saying. It's still a process.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think it doesn't depend on. I don't think it depends on how long like. You as a person who's dating someone from a different race has been in the country. It's all about the parents and their perspective, right?
Right.
So like my parents both came from Kerala in like the 80s, 90s or whatever. And they've assimilated with American culture, but they've also been very like hard on, keeping the Kerala traditions and culture like in our home, right? So I think for me being the first one in the family, like among my generation, to go out and date someone of a different race is a whole brand new concept to my entire family. Yeah. Like all my cousins before me, I'm the youngest one. I'm the last one in the generation.
You're the first.
I am the first.
Wow.
So like all the cousins before me have married like
all the cousins coming after you are probably happy right now, right?
Maybe.
You open doors.
Maybe.
That little barrier.
All right, not to stop you, but your situation is a little bit different.
Completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you okay with just talking about that a little bit?
We can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, please.
So, my parents kind of found out from a call from one of my cousins.
Really?
So I told him I
Like,
need
how long have you been dating by that time?
2 years?
Yeah,
2
we've been
years,
2
okay,
years.
2 years.
And before I met Marcus, I was completely okay with the arranged marriage. I was ready. You know, I was like, fine, it is
Well,
what it
that
is.
was our generation,
That was our
though. Yeah,
generation.
yeah,
I was so
makes sense.
used to it, you know, so I didn't care.
And she met me.
Yep.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
Yes,
kidding.
yes.
It's GQ, right?
So when
Just slid right into the
Slid right in.
that
He's like,
was
well,
it.
she's about to leave. I better make my move now.
No. I did say though, you know, don't. It was still early on, so it's like, you know, whatever happens, you know, make it your decision. Don't do it just because of me. Like, you know.
Wow, that's
but,
really good. I mean, so, but for 2 years though, did you ever bring it up? Like, you ever question, like, aren't you going to bring it up with your parents, or did you?
No, I let her work through the process. So, and then the process unwound, you know, for us, as she mentioned. You know, someone had mentioned it to our parents, and they found out. And again, I don't think it's too dissimilar to today. I think the process just takes a little longer.
Yeah.
So you talk to, so they find out,
Yeah,
right?
so one of my cousins actually, you know, he asked me about it. You know, your mom's kind of thinking there's something going on. So she asked me to talk to you. So I was like, okay. So I was just like, at this point, I was just tired of the secrecy behind it. And I just wanted to be done with it. All these arrangements are happening and things like that. So I said, just give me a little time. We'll present it to my parents together, or maybe, you know, you can help me out. And he was on board. Then he calls me up one day. He's like, I'm tired of this. You need to do it now. If you don't do it now, I'm going to call them and just tell them. And I was like, whoa, give me a minute. And he was like, no, I'm tired of it. I was like, fine, you're going to do what you're going to do. And he just made a phone call and told my parents straight out. I'm the only child. So, you know, it was a shock. So I prepared Marcus for the worst case scenario. And I was like, listen, I don't know what's going to blow up, what's going to happen. He was like, all right, well, it is what it is. We'll figure it out.
All right. So what happened? I mean, like, when
I get home, my parents ask me, do you know, are you dating a black guy?
Okay.
So I was like, yes. My dad completely flips. My mom's like, how could you do this to us? You're our only child. So it was hard on them too. Then it just went to hell basically.
But I mean, you were a little bit relieved though, right?
I was completely relieved. I was
Like,
such a burden.
finally,
Burden is off the back on my head. It was just, finally it's over.
I mean, you got each other. You guys can at this particular point now. That was the first big hurdle in terms of like, you know, for you guys to be together. That is always going to be the first big hurdle, right?
Yeah.
The parents, and unfortunately in this situation, you know, it's of course it's going to be vastly different.
Yeah, and
as opposed to a sit down.
And my parents been here for a long time when this happened. But the thing is, with, you know, like the 80s parents, they come here. India is changing. And the people's mindset are changing, but they're not. Our parents kept that, brought it here, and tried to give it to us without changing or something new.
For them, it's the Kerala that existed 20 years ago when they moved over here.
And they don't change from that because they don't see it either. So,
or at that time, they didn't change. I'd say you fast forward to today, there's a great relationship with my in-laws.
Exactly.
You know?
Once they get to
So
know
once
who
you get to know the person, and, you know, it's for my situation, being a black person, and there's all the stereotypes, right? Because there's lots of negative stereotypes about black males. And when you haven't had any interaction around that, you don't know, that's scary, right? My daughter is dating not just another person. I'm not white, okay?
Like
so there's levels to this. There's like, okay, you're not Malu, right? Okay, well, what are you? And it's like, oh, shit, you're black? That's probably the worst thing a Malu want to hear, okay? That's the worst thing, like, oh my God, you dating a black guy. I see all these people on TV. I don't know. I see stereotypes, okay? And that's across the board. That's not her parents. That's every Malu person in generation. Like, oh God, look at that. Kadam bin, right? Isn't that?
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh
So,
my God. It's just like,
but not knowing me. Now, if you go way back, everybody kind of our age knew who Marcus was. I was always around. They knew I was a good guy. they knew about me as the person. And once her parents were exposed to me as a person, it was fine. And similarly, I mean, I've been to India. I've been to churches, Orthodox churches. I don't understand a damn thing, okay? Because there's no English except I understand the word snehum. It's the only thing I hear doing is snehum.
But by the way, I have to admit, the way you say it is like really good. I'm telling you, years of practice, especially the word snehum. She's probably said that like a million times, right?
But that's just the time, and I was, very patient with it because I understood that, that there was always those prejudices, but they just come from negative images of society. And once you get to understand and know a person, things change, and that's just universal.
And it's funny, I could have said a million things nice about him. They did not hear that. They heard black male.
Right.
Yeah. So years have passed, right? And you talked about the initial difficulties and whatnot. Do you see similarities now, as far as your culture is concerned and how things are interpreted? What's your take right now after years of being together? In the beginning, I'm sure there's difficulties in terms of who needs to speak to who. How is this is brought up? The families being brought in together. How is it now?
There's similarities. There's just always been similarities, though. I'd say after going into our 20th year of marriage and having 2 children, our families are much more integrated, and so. We'll spend holidays together. I go to our cousin's house on an annual basis or twice a year, and so we're just a family. And there's some cultural differences, but for us, the biggest thing is to respect both cultures, and that's how we have to raise our children as well. So my children are very much aware that they're half black, half Indian. They have a great respect for both cultures. Our parents are friends and supportive of one another. So we have events, it's not just my parents or just her parents. We do things together. And you just recognize and respect the differences. And that's just how it is no matter what. If I married another person that missed another African American person, they're still going to have things that they do different traditionally within their family than what I do. So 20 years is a long time, man. So yeah, we good.
Definitely, getting used to not being exposed to somebody outside of Malu was hard at first, but it's just that mutual respect goes a long way, and wanting to know more about a different culture and the willingness to learn, I think that just alone just will make it so much easier for everybody,
So what about you guys right now? Especially with your parents, how they, do they see similarities in the Malu culture right now when it comes to them? And I'm sure there's got to be a lot of things that they can relate to, right?
Yeah, definitely similarities and differences. I would say in terms of and even from the beginning when I was explaining to them, their values are very similar to ours. I grew up in a very strict household, and so education was priority, finishing your degree and then worrying about dating and kind of all that stuff. So it was similar in that sense that there were things that were just spirituality and religion and school. That was all very similar between our cultures, just its priority. But differences, I would say there's a lot more traditions and customs that I had to learn. And honestly, it was really exciting, especially when we were wedding planning, because there was a lot of wedding traditions that was all new to me. Walking into the house with, after the wedding, the day after, and I was holding the candle and stepping in with my right foot. It was a lot that I had to learn. But it was exciting. Stressful at the time, because I was am I doing this right? Am I going to drop this or, whatever? But I would say it's exciting. It's exciting learning different culture, the food, the language, picking up a few words here and there.
Better than me if you can speak my
just a few words, I promise. It's a short list. But yeah.
Speaking of language, okay, let's do a test on the language here, okay?
Well, let me tell you this real quick. So I still remember Mini told me, Malayalam is one of the hardest languages in the world to learn. I said, why are you going to start off that way?
I messed it up.
So at that point, I'm
set him up for failure.
And what do you think now?
I think if you drop me in Kerala for a year, I think I'd be fluent.
I know.
Wow.
Something tells me I'll agree with that because the words that you actually spoke, a few words here and there, you did it spot on, brother. I mean, telling you, like, I was impressed.
That just means your Malayalam's not that
good. What about you, though?
I would say, so I feel like whenever we come to New York to visit his parents, we always have like a little vocab session. And so I'll always learn something new every time I come. So there's like a short vocab list that I have. I like keep a little notes page in my phone too, like just to remember for next time. But
a lot of it is related to food.
Yeah, a lot, because we're always talking at like the dinner table or something while we're eating. So it's like, oh, what's that called? And then I learn a new word. But yeah, a lot of it is food related, which I mean, it's important.
So I just want you guys to know that, you know, even as a Malu myself, like my wife comes from the northern part of Kerala, so mid-northern part, right? I come from the southern part. And the first time I went to her house, they were speaking in their dialect. I couldn't understand a single word. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm Malu and I don't understand. Like, like they would be speaking that Thrissur, which is a town in Kerala. They have that, and they speak it. I know they're speaking to me, and then I would look at my wife and I say, "What did they say? What did they say?" So, with all due respect,
you did this smile and nod.
I just said, "Oh, okay." What did he say? What did he say? But you know, you said you went to Kerala though.
I did.
How was it?
It was great. It was over 11 years.
11 years ago.
11, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
How long?
But
did you
even
stay
thinking about the language and smiling, we were in Kerala, and you know people try to speak English to me, and I'm just smiling and nodding. And Minnie's like, you know, they're speaking English. I said, oh, I had no idea. I understand what they're saying. So you had that accent. She said they're speaking English. Oh, damn. Okay. But yeah, we went to India in I think it was 2011, 2012. Our kids were very young. My son was 1. My daughter was 3. She hadn't been back since it was like 15 years.
Yeah.
So we flew out there. It was rough flying with a little baby that's still in diapers. So that was tough. But we spent 2.5 weeks. It was fun. I will say though, we got to our parents' house. I'm from Philly. I grew up with no air conditioning. She grew up with no air conditioning, but she forgot about that. So we got to our parents' house, and it was really hot. It was no air conditioning.
And there was a power cut.
So she was like, oh, I need to get some air conditioning for a day. So we stayed in the hotel. It was nice. We came back, stayed with our parents. And I just reverted to my childhood, just hot, right? Just hot. She was suffering. I said, man, didn't you have no air conditioning? She forgot what that's like.
No.
So
it's after a long flight with a 1-year-old, and I'm like sleep deprived. And then I come there and there's no fan. There's a power cut. I'm like, Dad, you have to get me out of here. I need to go somewhere.
What about you though? How comfortable? Like when they speak inside the home right now, do you pick up easy right now?
Yeah, I would. Well, not easy. I pick up like a few words here and there. It's definitely better than when we were like first married, because I feel like at first I was like, I have no idea what's going on. But then like now, if they'll like, if they're having a conversation, they say like Pali or something. I'm like, okay, they're probably talking about like church tomorrow or whatever. And then if they're talking about food, I'll pick up on like chor or like whatever. And then I'm like, okay, they're probably talking about what are we gonna eat for dinner or something. So like here and there, but definitely can't make sentences, but like little words here and there.
So what language do they speak in your house?
Arabic.
Yeah. So what about you? How's that working out, man?
Oh man, that's wrong.
Yeah, no. I would say I know more Malayalam than he knows
she
Arabic.
definitely knows more Malayalam words than I know Arabic words.
Yeah.
Like I know like phrases here and there, and like I try to catch little words here and there.
Yeah.
But like it's just like a whole different, like you use a different part of your throat, or like
it is a little faster though.
Yeah,
it is.
And one thing that always throws me out with the Arabic language, and I've like told her to this like multiple times, like sometimes she's just talking to her mom, and I'm like in the kitchen or something, and it's like, are you guys okay? Like, did you guys fight? And we're like, no, we just talk. And I'm like, y'all put a lot of heat into your words. Like, it is a whole different thing. I mean,
it's loud. It's
loud, it is very loud.
It sounds like we're fighting, but we're not.
And they're just there are like certain letters I can't pronounce. And one thing I didn't know was that when they like how we have Monglish, where you do like Malayalam words and English letters, like they also have that. But then they'll put like numbers, like it'll be like Z83. I'm like, what's like letters is a 3? And
yeah.
like
What sound is it? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, what sound is it?
I think so. For when you say like Ida in like my culture, it's pronounced Aida, and so I think it's a 3 that like makes that sound.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And like I know a 7's like an H, or like an H sound, like
I'm
a
sorry. Numbers are letters.
Numbers
Yeah,
are
really?
letters
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's something I picked up not too long ago.
So yeah, it's just I still need to work. I have a lot of work to do, but we plan on going to Egypt next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully, God willing. So we'll
Did you take her to Kerala yet?
next Monday.
Next Monday. Are you excited?
I'm excited. I'm very excited. The only thing that I'm terrified of are the bugs. I am not a bug person, and Jessley and like we have some
Which
cousins.
part of Kerala are you taking her to?
So Papa's from Malayalee.
Oh,
And
Malayalee,
Mommy
okay.
is Pathanamthitta district.
Okay.
Both where my parents are from. So
When's the last time you've been there?
2018 for Achin's wedding.
Oh, okay. I was just waiting. You were there.
That's when the flood happened. That was not a good time.
Oh, okay.
Like yeah, that was rough.
And you've been there like 11 years ago. That was the last time you've been there.
Yep. 11
I,
years ago.
have you
The
taken?
bugs didn't bother me. It was the driving.
It was the driving.
Actually, yeah,
I was never more scared in my life than driving in the car.
I get car sick on those rides.
Bangalore.
It's bad.
I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die, because there's another language. It's called the horn. I didn't realize that there was a language. Oh my God, that was scary.
It's a language.
Yeah, it was
Let me
the
ask you a
driving was
question
crazy.
though. Of all the Kerala customs, did you guys learn the Kerala nod?
I have definitely picked up on that.
Did you pick up on that?
When you're in India, your head just starts to naturally bob. Okay, you cannot pick it up, and it has its language. And my in-laws and everybody does it, so you do it. But
That's
sometimes you just
funny.
keep going. So only in India do I do that though. Just kind of.
I remember going one time going there, and I was on this train, and this tourist, this British guy, we end up in the same compartment, and he starts coming up to me. He's like, and we're speaking in English. He said, "By the way, I got this very important question to you. What does this mean?"
Yes or no?
It has different meanings.
And so I'm like, yeah, well, it means yes and maybe and this thing. So whenever he does this, I said, take it as a maybe. That's a lot more easier than taking it as a yes.
Yes or no.
You know. But did you enjoy yourselves though? I mean,
Yeah. It was great. I think the next time we go, because we do want to go back, I want to make sure that we can take some time and do more cultural things. It was a lot of visiting family.
Yeah, that
She had
always
been
happens.
there for so long, so we spent a lot of time doing that, which was fine. But I want to have an opportunity to explore a little more. I didn't know that you could not eat the food, so I was really full. We'd go from house to house. I would eat and drink everywhere, and they kept putting food, and I just kept eating because I thought that was what you were supposed to do.
Technically, you're supposed to because like if they bring food, you're supposed to take something. You know?
But then it would be gone, and it would go back and I keep eating.
They never stop
And
refilling
many
his
would
plate.
say you don't have to keep eating it. You just have to take a little bit. I'm like, okay, in my culture, you're supposed to eat it.
Yeah.
Clean plate, like.
What are you looking forward to?
I'm excited for like I've seen like pictures and it's really pretty. Like so for in Egypt it's a lot more like city like from where my grandparents are from, and that's where we always go, but it just seems more like villagey and like foresty and just really like I don't know, there's a lot of nature. And so I think I'm excited for that part. Yeah, not the spiders.
Well, the
So-
place he's taking you to, it's very foresty. Okay?
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
same.
yeah.
Don't they
You're
call
gonna
it
see a
God's
lot
country?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, God's own
The
country.
the houseboats are really nice.
Yes, yeah.
So we
did
plan on
that.
doing
We're
that. We
doing
definitely
that.
plan on doing a houseboat with it.
That
Yeah.
is, a lot of times nowadays, when we first got married, that was the problem. You always had to go and visit family. You have to visit all these houses.
Right.
Now, if we go, we try to find time to do it, and there's a lot of things to do there. So I'm going to go into the food segment here. We talked about food here. All right. When it comes to food, let me start with you.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite Malu food?
I would say his dad makes really good like beef with like appam. That's a good meal. Chicken curry's a good meal. Just your mom makes that, right? Yeah, that with some appam's good. Anything with appam and chor honestly is good. But I'd say those two.
So out of those, which ones can you cook? Does he cook it?
He cook. I have to give him credit. He cooks some good Indian meals. Yeah.
I don't want
What's
to
your
brag.
specialty, man? What do you
chicken
give your
curry
wives? Huh?
Chicken curry is my specialty. But like, you know, like, so again, with difference in cultures, right?
Yeah, there's issues here.
When I had her food, right, I'm just like, oh, like it's really good. Like Egyptian food, really good. It's just like their palate is more like onion, garlicky, like kind of like savory, where ours is more spicy. And
but they have curries. Like they have a little bit of a curry, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be like kind of stew-like almost, but I think like
but the biggest factor is the spice factor.
yeah, that's the
And, like, that's
issue
something that we're
still dealing.
I
with.
gotta adjust, you know, like, you know, take the spice out a little bit.
A little bit.
My
You take it out completely.
My
for
parents
me.
had like take the spice out a little bit. I'm like, just leave it in there. She has to get used to it. So like that's why next Monday, like for a week we're in Kerala and all that, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Let's see how she does.
Yeah, I'm not gonna survive.
How did you introduce him to Mali food?
It's funny because when we were at Temple, I would go to, I don't know if you remember that restaurant, Kebabish. So I would bring some of that, and then we went to New Delhi restaurant.
You made chicken curry too.
Yeah.
I remember at one of your
After
apartments.
a while.
Really? You made chicken curry for him?
Yep.
It's for whole crew.
Group.
It was
All
whole
group.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all of our friends at
Yeah,
Temple
yeah.
and stuff. We would make.
And so, what about you? So, for you right now, what's your favorite?
Oh man. I
got a
have to
list. He sounds
say
like he's got a
probably my
list.
favorite is Minnie's chicken biryani or
Really?
chicken curry. There's things I like, but I don't know the names of it. So we get food all
When
the
do you figure that out? What is it?
because my in-laws, her mom makes food for us all the time. There's always stuff coming in, and either I can't pronounce it or I create my own name. So, she'll translate this. I say the banana stuff. What is that?
Kakari.
I love that.
Go ahead, which one?
Kakari. Ka.
Oh yeah, okay.
Her mom makes that really good. See, I can't remember that name, but I call it banana stuff because
It works.
Well, it's close enough. It is.
Etiopums.
Etikapam.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, think of him. Okay, that's good. Man, you're giving him a good.
Yeah,
I
you know,
eat
my
it all.
mom loves
Fish
to cook. So if I go
curry,
over
shrimp
there,
curry.
she gives me like 5 things to take home, and I'm like, Mom, I can't finish all this food. It's just
It's not for you. You do understand that, right? It's not for you.
she just makes so much.
I pretty much like everything. The only thing I don't like is what is the more
more.
more on the rice. My kids love it. I'm not a big fan of that.
You're not a big fan of it?
No, that's the only thing I don't
Have
really
you
do.
taken her to a cookout in your family?
All
Like
the
you
time.
guys, I mean, like
Yeah, we have it all the
like,
time. Yeah. It's
How-
usually at my house, but yeah, I've taken
You're in
Yeah.
charge of that?
Yeah.
yeah. No, I like to throw down on the grill. Yeah.
And I've been
Talk about cross cultural. I'm gonna tell you 2 things. One thing I learned: Indians love black pasta salad. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Come to my house. We make the pasta salad, and when the new people try, oh my God, this is. Crush the pasta salad.
It's
okay?
always gone. Like I have to make
Crush
extra
the
every
pasta
year.
salad. And this is universal. Everybody love fried chicken, man.
Oh yeah.
Put that out there. Everybody love fried chicken.
It's like
Stereotype.
Amen to that.
a universal animal that everyone
yeah.
can agree on.
Yeah.
It
It's that
is
one
that-
animal, and then they fry it so good.
But
It's like,
we have cookouts. We have different things. She'll make my parents love the cutlets.
oh yeah.
I don't know if they're called
Yeah,
something
cutlet,
different,
yeah.
but cutlets are like battle. They battle over cutlets. My mom
cutlets.
comes over. She's like, "Is Minnie gonna make some cutlets?" I'm
His
like,
mom is so sweet.
Mom, I don't know because her making cutlets makes my life miserable because she makes so many of it. She's angry. I don't want to help. You know, I'm like, no, Mom, Minnie ain't making no cutlets.
So you talked about your kids love it. Like, how are they with the Indian Mali food and everything?
Oh, my daughter was such a picky eater when she was little, but now she eats everything. She likes the spice. She eats it. My son, on the other hand, he likes it long as it's not spicy.
As long as it's not spicy.
And he loves rice.
My kinda.
Where my daughter is like, I don't need the rice. But me, I'm all about chora. You know, rice, that's life. No.
Rice is life.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you, is there a recipe that your mom makes for him?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
there's a
would.
ton.
Yeah, anytime we go over her house, pretty much she's making a bunch of food for him. You
What's your
definitely have some
go-to?
favorites.
What's your go-to
Yeah.
Egyptian food, man?
Oh man. So they have a bread. It's kind of like parota. They call it fatir.
Okay.
So that's really good, and it's like very buttery, very flaky.
Yeah.
And then they have it's a really stinky cheese called mesh,
Oh yeah.
and you like dip it into that and eat it. Oh, it's
I don't even like
my
it. You
breath
love
stank
it.
after it, but it is delicious, right?
Like, talking
had
to
a
you
mince
right
right
now.
Yeah, right. And then and like literally the bottle says like stinky cheese or something.
Yeah, I think it does.
Right.
Yeah.
Then there's
prepared.
like kofta, which is like ground
God,
like
so
beef
good.
or ground like turkey, and it's like with onions, like very oniony. The grape leaves.
Yeah.
What's it?
Mashi?
Mashi.
Yeah.
So it's like rice, beef, and it's wrapped in and it's like some seasoning and sauce, and it's wrapped in grape leaves, and then it's steamed, and then you eat all of it, and it's just like I will crush like 10 of those in a day, like
yeah.
easy.
Those are good.
So yeah, again, it's not spicy, but I mean, it's
It's
still
surprising
delicious.
though that food is such a unifying item though. Like, you know, thank God for our palates. You know,
Yeah.
there's always something in every culture that we can easily get into. You know, we just need to find it. That's about it.
Yeah.
You know, but once we
We
find
love
it, we're
food.
set, right?
Yeah,
we
done.
stick to that.
Like he just found his. You know, like you're good to go from this
Yeah.
point onwards. You
Right,
know,
we're good.
even if you don't want to make it, just make sure you call home.
Yeah,
you know?
like, Mom, send this
Brian
over.
wants.
Well, she already knows it. This is a phone
She
call
knows
needed.
it,
She
yeah.
knows.
She
Like we're
knows
coming
the
over.
meals.
She's like, all right, I'm making this.
This.
Yeah.
She's already got the
I'm
set
set.
and everything else. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. All right, I want to go a little bit into some a little bit more serious topics here because now, and this question is for you two. All right, especially about our culture. We want to understand. You know, what was some of the hardest? I mean, as far as assimilating into Malay culture, what do you think are the biggest roadblocks for us?
I'd say not understanding the language sometimes. So
Of course, language is always going to be that.
yeah, so you're kind of on the outside, and you know, because I would go to church and everything, but you didn't understand what people are saying, and then in your own head, when you stick out, you don't know what people are thinking. So that's probably the hardest part. I think if I knew the language, it would be a lot easier. As long as you're open. Like for example, we talked about food a little bit, but things like eating with your hand, like that's very different for me. And so I have to try to be respectful with you with my hand. I hate eating with my hands. It's just because I don't like my hands getting. If I use a lot of napkins, so it's just disgusting when I eat with my hands. I think the language was the biggest thing. So I would go to church, and the guys and the girls would sit on different sides. So that was like, I don't understand this. I want to sit with my wife, right? And then I'd stand there for 2 hours. No, I'm serious. You stand there for 2 or 3 hours, not understanding anything, and thinking all I want to do is sit down. Like my legs hurt. That was the funny part of it. But then, but coming from that, it's like, well, how can I really get something from this if I don't really know what's going on?
So
And
my concern is like because in today's day and age, do you think? I mean, this is for you guys to answer. Do you think our culture can do a better job of kind of like either expressing themselves or when it comes to bringing on board people from other cultures? Is there things that we can do better? As far as
I definitely think so, because there is a sense of prejudice in our minds, like especially my age group, our parents' generation that just came in the 80s. Mm-hmm. They hear stuff on the news, so they automatically have these preconceived notions or ideas about a culture, person. Let that down. Like, this is a new era. Women are.
Not everyone's going to be painted with the same brush.
Yeah.
Or
Exactly.
what you're seeing doesn't necessarily have to be true.
Yeah.
But my concern, like, do you think our church is doing a good job? Because I do feel like there are some areas that we can do better in that.
I think so. I mean, Achin has been very, very welcoming to me. So I think the church, in that regard, over time, you feel welcome. When I go, I don't have any issues there. What I've witnessed though, and this is maybe more generational, because I think, Minnie's or our generation, it's different. It is different. We have many friends not many, but we have other friends in similar situations. But what I've noticed, and we kind of touched on it before, older generations haven't integrated. They haven't, like, my father-in-law, for example, his English is pretty good, but it's not as good as if he had other friends outside of the Malo culture. So I feel like, when you don't have any friends or haven't really experienced people outside of your culture, it's just a lot different. Today is a little different, right? I'm seeing the kids, like, half them,
Well, the kids are definitely different. Our children are different.
I'm not even talking about children. I'm talking about people our age. Just back in the day, coming up, like, you listen to my music? Okay. You listen to my music? Okay, we can ride. We can,
But you guys are just recent, so I'm assuming that it's a little bit different now. But
I think it still had its like struggles. Like I feel like anytime like we walk into like a Malu church, like all eyes, like just away from like service, like who is that? Like it's not our color, right? But then like when we were dating and I'd go to the Coptic church, like even like the older like uncles and they call them tunts, like Andy's like tunts. They would like they're more welcoming. Like they come up to you, they want to know who you are. They want to know like like not like what you're doing here, obviously, but just like more about you, right? Where I feel like all the Andys in our church are like, oh, like, who is that? Oh, is that this person's girlfriend? Is that this person's boyfriend? Like,
they're not asking you.
Yeah, they're not asking
They're
you.
just asking each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I just feel like that is like, so we go to a mission Orthodox church, not like basically all English service. And I feel like that is a little bit different because there's a lot more people of different cultures in that church, and they're always welcoming. Like as soon as they see someone in the door like coming through that's new, they'll hand them a book. They'll like if they need any questions. Like, and this is not just like an usher; it's like anybody in the church that sees them. But like in our like church that our parents grew up in, it's always just like who is that? Like they're not supposed to be here. So I feel like we can get better on that part.
Time. By the 10th time, they just coming up to you talking.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you remember me? I'm like, yeah. No, I don't remember. I don't remember you.
That happens to us too. I'm like, I don't really know, man.
I don't know who this person
And I'm
is.
usually like, I don't know either.
Mark is looking at you. Do you know who this is?
Yeah.
Do you know?
And I usually just say, oh, that's auntie and uncle.
My default response is, how can I forget? And then like, I really don't know their name or anything.
Then going back to India, I remember
granted,
we went to church in Kerala. No, it was Bangalore though. Was it Bangalore?
Bangalore.
Yeah, that was all eyes were on me, right? Woo.
It's funny because we went on the train and stuff. We would be walking on the platform, and people, he stands up a little bit taller than the average person, and some people, it's like that double take, and then he'll. And then the guy will look around to see who's he with, or like the other Indian person's like, who's he with? Right. And I was like, oh, okay.
So how do you deal with it? Like when you got the all eyes on you statement. Like
I mean, I just kind of expect it because I like the first time it happened. Like I'm just going to church for the first time. It was kind of overwhelming because it's like not even just like it just felt like everyone, all eyes were on you, and I'm just like, okay, this is happening, and like I don't know, it was nerve-wracking, but I feel like I kind of got used to it. I'm just like, okay, I guess I look different, that's me. And I just kind of like get over the stares. But yeah,
can you either of you have a full conversation with Malayalam?
absolutely not.
I think both of them should have a conversation.
I can't even say a
Say
sentence.
something to her. Like, come on, let's hear that.
I don't know any full sentences.
What you got, Ida? What you got?
I know words.
All right. Something else where she knows.
I know like maybe 2 sentences. I could say, let's say, Enika Chor Venda.
Okay. She said no to food.
Again, I have like a limited vocab list.
Sure is rice. I know rice. I know words.
You know words.
I know words. Yeah. Vellum.
How did it work
Yeah,
out
there
in
you go.
Kerala? But you were in Kerala though, like 11 years ago. Did you pick up those words where you're in Kerala, or you just picked it up over the 20 years?
Over the
Just
20
us
years.
and then my
you have to
kids.
be very comfortable not understanding what someone says. When you do.
That's true.
And so I'm very comfortable not understanding what you say. I don't get offended if people are talking another language. I've been to other countries. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, you get to a point.
I just think it's something else, right? And smile. So, but I can't speak full sentences. We did take a class for a little bit, and we're learning how to write letters. But that didn't last long.
No.
We couldn't. It was just a scheduling
Scheduling.
thing. But look,
But if you were given the opportunity, would you be interested in something like that?
if I had the time, yeah,
The time.
it's about time.
What about you?
I would be. I definitely would be because I feel like it's not that I get lost in conversation, but it'd be nice to like be able to participate. After a few minutes they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we're talking about this," and they'll translate in English. But I'm like, it'd be cool to actually like.
Sometimes I'll do like a real time transcription. So like my dad and my brother are talking. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, he
Like
just said this,
whisper in
this,
my
this,
ear.
this, this. And I'm
And
like,
that's
this.
and that's the nice part about it. You know why she would want me to speak it? So we could talk about people. What we're saying.
That's why everybody's
That's funny. My kids
You
are
know,
like,
just
Mom,
be
I
like-
wish you would have taught me so we could
You
talk about
know,
people.
like let's just talk about people. So that's what we would use it for too.
So here's a question. Since you brought up kids, I mean, this is really important too. The children.
Yep.
How is it raising children in this kind of setup right now, in this environment?
My kids are 15 and 13, so they're just getting to that stage where I think they are trying to learn a little bit more about the culture and wanting to learn. So they already have a very good relationship with my parents. They have a very good relationship with his parents. So they understand their differences, but they also understand that we all get together and we all love and we care about each other and we're just one family. But they do understand there are differences. You know what I mean? When they go to a church or anything like that. But it doesn't seem to bother them so much because it probably doesn't affect them as much because they're not in the Indian churches. Nobody's going to say anything to them because they're different.
Do you want them to learn?
I would love them to learn the language and, be a little bit more. But I think that'll come eventually because their curiosity is just starting on that right now.
Their curiosity, they're getting to a point right now where they're getting to understand what the social customs are, the cultures
Exactly.
are,
Yep.
things like that.
And they're, we're starting to travel a little bit more outside the country. So it's just like, now they're like, oh, wait, I have a different culture and different customs in my life. So I want to know more.
This is what makes us unique.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
See,
exactly.
that's the piece. So for you guys, it's going to be even twice the work. You have this Arabic Coptic culture, right? You have this Mallu Orthodox culture right here. I mean, have you guys even thought about like how, what are you guys going to do, Like
Go
it
first.
makes sense for teaching both, right? At this particular point.
I would definitely love our future kids, to know both languages. I think over time, kind of like you said, like they'll kind of get used to the differences in the cultures and things like that, which it'd be great for them to experience both and everything, and like the food and language and all that. It'll be a challenge. I feel like the best way we could possibly do it is just like your parents always speak to them in Malayalam, my mom will always speak to them in Arabic, and then
At that point,
somehow
they're not
they'll
going to understand anything.
But
somehow they'll pick it up.
Here's the thing, though. We don't have that much of a training mechanism for the languages right now, do we? That's a big. Do you guys think that's a big issue right now?
That would be
I
nice.
truly think so, because even with my daughter right now, I speak to her almost exclusively in English. We've been away from Kerala for all our lives, so our Malayalam diminishes as every year goes by.
Yeah.
And it becomes harder and harder for them to pick up. But I would really like it if they had an opportunity to kind of like, learn the language maybe somewhere, or take a class, or
Like
something.
practice speaking, or somebody
I
teaching
feel
them how
like
to speak.
what
That
I'm
would be
afraid.
nice.
I'm afraid that by their time, when their time comes, that whole side of them may disappear.
The language.
I mean, I think that's
That's just
kind
part
present.
of being in the United States.
Yeah.
though, right?
Part
I
of being in the United
many
States.
people have immigrated here, right, over time. Unfortunately, that's what happens a lot is the language.
I mean, you can even
goes.
see like the younger generation, like the generation after us, like a lot of my like nephews and nieces and even like people in church who are younger, like they don't know how to speak Malayalam. Like they don't know like the customs as I once knew. Like I don't know Malayalam like a lot. Like I can understand what my parents are saying, but like saying it back to them is really tough. I could like sound it out of my head, but I can't speak it. But then like, you know, my nephews and nieces, like it's hard for them to understand at all. Right. So like, and they're both like from Malu parents, right? So I think there is an opportunity for us to improve, to teach that younger generation, and even teach us so that we could be better teachers at home. Like, you know, God willing, when we have kids.
Are there? I've never really been able to find
I
like
think
you
at
could
some
go
point
to a class and
there
have,
was
you know,
a couple here and there, but
yeah.
There's like an Andy in our church that like does it upon herself to like teach classes. But
that's what we need, though.
Yeah.
We need more volunteers.
100%.
We need more volunteers, more people within our community. It's like, you know, sustain some kind of it's like a dying language, you know, so we need to sustain that, you know. If we could get more people like that, but I'm guessing that if we put that kind of pressure in, or if we start asking, there's somebody's going to pop in at some point. Like even with your kids right now, how do they feel when you say that they're, you know, they're Malu too, you know?
They love it. They actually have told me, like, Mom, I wish you had taught me Malayalam.
Really?
Yeah. They really do. So it's just like, I regret that. Like, I remember my parents were just like, you need to teach them, you know, say 1 or 2 words. And I really thought about it, you know, like there's only very limited things you're going to say to a child.
Right.
Come here, go get this, you know. That's how you start. Like 1 to 2 sentences, whatever language you are trying to, and I wish I did that. It's like a few things and they'll just pick it right up.
Right.
And they're like little sponges.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a serious question now. When we deal with the, you know, new cultures and everything, you're going to deal with a little bit of racism, a little bit of these social pressures and everything else like that. How do you, especially to your children right now, how do you, you know, work with them to deal with those kind of things?
We can probably answer that a little.
Oh, I'm a black male. I've been dealing with racism since I was born, so that's not anything new. You know, my kids are acutely aware, and as they become older, they become more aware. But I think, I
mean, even within our own culture, you're going to deal with that, like within the Malu culture itself. You know?
You just instill a sense of self pride. If you have a self pride, then you don't let that type of stuff take you down.
I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, we can both agree. Like even in our Malu culture, like, you know, we've seen people react a certain way, deal a certain way. I'm sure it's going to be, you know, evident in your culture there too. Mm-hmm. You know, what do you think we can do? You know, in terms of like, you know, we can tell our kids as much too, but I think there should be more of a communication. Do you agree? Or
you can never really change how another person's going to react or how they feel. The only thing you can do is educate them, and then at the end of the day, don't let your kids, like you said, let your kids have a self-pride. You know, that is how they feel. It shouldn't affect me because that's not who I am. I think that's where you really have to just instill that in the new generation, no matter what culture, you know what I mean? But especially in ours, our parents are going to, you know, they're going to have their prejudice. We can't change it, unfortunately. You know, as much as we want to, they can't.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, like, you know, we've dealt with, like, even us, like, we've dealt with that prejudice and people, like, thinking things about us because we're seeing someone of a different race. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, I mean, I totally agree. It's just, like, I know what I'm doing is right, and I think we need to, like, instill that in, like, the future generation. Like, don't worry about what other people think. I feel like the Malu culture is also very toxic in that sense, where you're always worried about what does this person think, what does that person think, right? Like, you gotta train them out of that. You just, like, you can't be of that mindset, because then, like, you're not gonna live your own life. Like,
I agree.
If I thought,
so you're saying that we should be, like, you know, even if we can't change the uncles and aunties per se.
Yeah, like if we change, like, our generation's, like, outlook on things, right? Which I think we're already there. Like, I don't think that needs to be improved on. I think we just need to, like, work on ourselves or just help other people who are struggling in that same situation. Like, don't worry about what other people think, like, or else you're only going to live according to what they want. Like, you need to live your own life, right? If I feel like if we lived, like, according to what our parents want, like, we wouldn't be with our partner right here.
Sure.
So I definitely think that it's just kind of you need to instill this in yourself and be an example for others.
But you made a great point about not worried about what other people think. If you could do that and have that self-pride, you're good. I already knew what people thought about me because of the stereotype. But they know me, Marcus is this, he's going to leave her.
Did you know
successful, all that stuff, all that nonsense.
5 years is the max you're going to last.
Yeah, it's like, Marcus is,
I want you to be honest. So, how did you deal with it in the beginning?
It bothered me a little, but it didn't because as an African American, you're used to stereotypes. Okay. So whether it comes from the Malo community, it comes from the white community, or otherwise, didn't matter. I'm used to that. I grew up in white schools. I've always stuck out, right? Unless I was just within black people. So from that perspective, it didn't really. Not that it didn't bother me. It bothered me but I never took it personal, I guess as I should say. It bothered me, but I never took it personal because I understood that they didn't really know who I was. And no matter what someone thought, it wasn't going to take away from who I was and what my potential would be. And so I think part of the challenge was when people saw us dating, is that lack of potential, that he's going to bring her down. He's going to get her pregnant and it's going to run away, all that type of stuff. Not like, oh, he's in school. He's getting his MBA. He's trying to do things. He's going to, he comes from a nice family. None of those thoughts came to
Well, they're never going to see that. They're only
going to
see what they want.
And I could say until I was blue in the face that, his family is educated. He's educated. Comes from a good family. He's not like that. His parents been married 50 years. They didn't hear any of that, even though I'm saying it to them.
And then to add to that, not to be the exception but the rule, because that's the other thing too, right? You don't want to be he's one of the good ones. Like that's kind of crazy too.
Or you don't want to be angry either. Like you don't want to show I'm pissed off at this.
Yeah, I don't get angry at that stuff, man.
Like how did you deal with this?
I know he felt bad for me, because I was being pushed away. Because now, when we grew up, it was extremely rare this happened. So it was stay away from her. Mm-hmm. She's not good. Oh no, my daughter was hanging out with her before. So is my daughter going to do the same thing, or is my son going to do? I was a Sunday school teacher. So oh my God, what was she teaching? Is this okay? So it was I was very active in the church. So all of a sudden, when I did what they were just right. Hopefully she doesn't influence my kids.
Right.
And she's one of the bad ones now because that was oh, she did something bad, so we don't want to associate with her. So you kind of had to step back and just distance yourself at that point.
So I'm gonna this excellent discussions, but I want to end this with this very important question. And I'm going to start with Ida, you guys. What would you like to, in terms of advice to the next generation that's coming on board, that's going into a relationship like this and going into a marriage? What kind of advice do you want to give to them? Especially one, as far as how building a relationship between you two, and the second piece is how to deal with it from a Malu perspective or from a Desi perspective.
I think the biggest thing, so I'd say I have two main pieces of advice. One is to really let your partner shine in front of your parents, because I think we talked about it a lot. You just saying things about your partner to your parents or to other people, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other, right? But for me personally, I never expected to marry outside the culture. But then I finally met Ida, I saw her and she blew me away, right? So I'm if she has the power to do that to me, she can influence that to other people. And at first when we were dating, I'm oh, don't do this, don't do that, don't say this, don't say that. And I felt I was kind of restricting her. And then I just let her be. I just let her do how she is, just
when did that change? When did you feel you needed to change?
So I think this was actually a big turning point in what my family thought of her. So unfortunately, one of my cousins was in a hospital for a small accident, and she asked me, she's can I come see him? Because she was close with the cousins. The parents were kind of on my dad's side. Were not really about her. Don't really agree with this, right? But anyway, I talked to my cousin's mom. She's yeah, she can come. And she came, and what she did was she politely asked, she's like, I brought holy oil from a monastery from Egypt. Can I like put it on him? And like she like took the oil and like put it on his head and like where he was injured. And like that just blew him away, because out of all his other friends that came, none of them did that, right? And that's something that like I think we do a lot in our culture. Like we'll bring holy oil from like Paramala or something, right? And they saw that in her, and then like that just changed their whole perspective of her. And then they like try to convince my dad, like, oh, she's like no one has ever done this, right? So like, and like I was gonna say like maybe you shouldn't come to the hospital, right? But if I said that and she didn't come, like maybe that turning point would have never happened, right? So I think like my one first part of advice is like let your partner shine, like just let him or her do what, same way they blew you away, like let them blow like the community away, let them blow your parents away, like because that's how it happens, because that's why you like fall in love with your partner.
Yeah, you loved her for a reason, or you loved your partner for a reason.
Yeah, and you don't want to hide that.
Yeah,
right. The second advice, this is something that my dad and her dad told me before we were getting married. They said, don't get married, right? Right? That was their advice.
That was the advice.
That was their advice. And then it's funny because after we got married and I start complaining about like, it's like stupid stuff she does. They're like, I told you, you didn't listen. No, but seriously, the second piece of advice is like, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice. There are people that we know that like have to sacrifice relationships with their parents. Like luckily, like I don't think either of us here today had to do that. But like make sure that you're sacrificing it for the right person. Like put a lot of thought, put a lot of prayer into like, is she or he the right one? Are you willing to fight for her, like up on the hill, like till the end? Like, are you willing to fight for that person? Because I mean, there might be some relationships where you really have to like, maybe your parents just won't accept and they never will. But again, I think the first part of like letting them shine will hopefully do that. But make sure you're putting up a good fight for a good reason. And like, if your partner is the right person and you put some thought, prayer, like you love her with all your heart, like you do anything for them, like that's who you want to fight this fight for. Because if it's just some other person that you kind of like, and at that point it's not worth it. So it's a big sacrifice, and you're going to fight. There's going to be challenges. Make sure that you're fighting for the right reason and for the right person.
What's your thought about that? I'm sorry. Do you have anything to add? Please.
I mean, he like crushed it, definitely.
Oh, yeah, he definitely crushed it. He definitely crushed it. It was like a 2-pointer too.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to get yelled at back in the car,
You guys have
Yeah, no, I mean, everything you said was great. I would say definitely, like, for me, it took a lot of prayer, because especially in the beginning, it was like he was scared that he would lose his dad over this. I mean, his mom was like, willing to like, accept it and everything like that. But he was so scared he would lose his relationship with his dad. And so at the time I was praying about it so much because it was terrifying for me. I'm like, I don't want to be the reason or the cause of like a relationship that falls apart or, whatever the case may be. But
did you feel frustrated at any point?
There were some moments where like if it was something like he couldn't tell them, or like or if it's like, oh, like, can I like say hi or something like that. And, it wasn't always the best time, or be like, oh, like not now or something. And it can get frustrating because I'm a very like open, like more type of outgoing type of person. And I think like at the start, I couldn't be like that just yet. It was very like low key, just, say things at the right time and, and the appropriate thing too, like watch what you say. It felt like there were some expectations at the beginning just to not like screw anything up. But, I mean, now it's very easy. Now, like, I can be myself. It's easy. And I think they like accept me for that too.
Oh, my dad and her like joke around all the time.
Yeah, we're like best friends.
Like the relationship
now.
is just amazing.
Yeah, we're best friends. So yeah, it's definitely turned. I would say just patience and lots of prayer.
Correct. Patience is the key.
Yeah.
What about?
For me, I think definitely know the person that you're marrying. Get to know them. Absolutely, just know that person as a character. Like that person wants to be with you, wants the best for you, is your advocate in everything. And after 20 years, that same person has changed. But did that person change with you? And were you, both rooting for each other? And you be willing to change and accept things and grow together. Things are not going to stay the same after 20 years, but change. But that person inside is always going to be the same. So know that person's character very well.
What do you think?
Tough to follow. I'd say that it's really about the person, and we're spotlighting the difficulties just kind of within, our respective cultures coming together, but those difficulties happen even people within cultures, in terms of, parents or whomever are not accepting and not liking. So at the end of the day, it really comes to, how do you want to live your life and how do you want to build your life and who do you want to build that with? And, I chose to build that with Mini. Mini chose to build that with me, and that's how we were going to go forward. And over time, people do change. So, right now it may seem like if someone's out there and their family or their parents are against it or are not supportive, that can change. And it may not change in year 1. It may not change in year 2. I've seen some examples where it changes in year 10, but it can change. And it usually changes once the person has exposure to whomever you're dating, or whoever you're married to, your wife or your husband. If they're a good person, that's going to be recognized.
Shine, right?
Yeah.
That piece.
Yeah.
So now, are you at a point right now? How comfortable? I mean, you've gone through that phases right now. How are things now?
In general,
yeah.
Great, yeah. It's fine.
I've been doing this for a long time, man.
It's gotten easier, definitely.
Yeah, it's
definitely gotten a lot easier. So it's now and things don't really phase as much. We're actually very if they want to say something, like if I know somebody's talking behind Mark about him in Malayalam, Mark's like, I don't really want to know. They clearly didn't have the guts to say it to my face, so I don't care. So it's like we just roll through the punches. We're very laid back and easygoing about certain things, and it is what it is. Priority is kids and us.
Correct.
Yeah, and I don't feel like prejudice or all that anymore. Maybe it's there, I don't notice it, but I don't really feel that. I mean, people know about Marcus and Mini. I mean, it's not new. We've been together for a long time. We built a life. I'm very successful in my career. We have wonderful children. What is someone going to say? And I don't know. What are they
at this particular point right now?
Yeah,
you've
what are they
already
going to say?
committed. You've done what you have to do.
I'm not living on the street. I'm not destitute.
Didn't leave me after 5 years.
Didn't leave her. So what could people not like? So that doesn't really faze me. I will say this one quick thing though, just it's still somewhat interesting when I meet someone new. For your culture, just going back, the first thing any person says or uncle says, they say the profession. Hi, I'm such and such. My son's doctor. I don't even know you. Why are you telling me your son's doctor? Hi, how are you? And then they ask you what you do. Hi, my she's a lawyer. I just met you. Why are you telling me this? So that was just my little thing. I still find pretty funny.
That is unfortunately, I'm happy they didn't tell you the car that they're driving either. But that normally comes up too, right? Also their, which address too, things like that.
Oh
but this has been an incredible conversation. I just want to thank you guys for sharing the time with us. There's some incredible insights. To end it all, to make a synopsis of this, things have changed. Obviously, with you guys, as you can see, I think a little bit more changes there. You're in an environment where there's a lot more couples, much different from when you guys got married 20 years ago. But at the same time, what you guys are telling me, there are still some things that exist, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a Malu thing either. It can be in any culture, any race. But the key thing, like you said, is one, patience, which, and then patience, sorry. And then we talked about, the shining part, And then, of course, when you're in your point, once you commit, you commit. You take it in there, right? You deal with it, come what may, and you made a choice to go together and then just move forward,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.